and I'll let you guys take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We're so excited to have you here today. This is the uh third in our series, but I think we've been working through our Let's Talk About Rights guides. And so today we're going to be talking about our family and guardian version. And so we're excited that you're here to join us. I'm just going to get us started. I'm going to share my PowerPoint. Give me a second. It should work beautifully because I'm in the office, which makes it much easier for me.
Looks good to
All
me.
right. I think it looks good, right?
Yep.
All right. I'm just gonna give I'm Sally Flashberger and I am the project manager for the Living Well grant. I'm gonna give all of our presenters an opportunity to introduce themselves. I'll turn it to Caitlin next.
Give me 1 second. I'm trying to manage
Okay,
share.
I'll go to Cindy. Cindy, will you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Cindy Bentley. I'm the Executive Director of People First Wisconsin.
Awesome. And Nancy?
Hi, I'm Nancy Gopinski, and I'm a parent of two kids. One who is on the autism spectrum, and I work for Cindy at People First Wisconsin as the operations manager.
And Diana?
Hi, my name is Diana Becerra, and I am the program director at ALAS, as well as a sibling of someone with a disability.
And then if Caitlin's ready, maybe?
I am. Sorry about that.
No worries.
My name is Caitlin McNamara. I work at the Wisconsin Board for People with Developmental Disabilities on the Living Well grant as the project coordinator.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. So just a little bit about the Living Well grant. This is a 5-year grant that we've been working on at BPDD, and it's really focused on improving the independence, community integration for people, so inclusion in people's communities, also the safety and well-being of people with disabilities. We have been working with 8 service providers around the state, as well as 10 self-advocate leaders and People First. So People First has been helping guide our self-advocate leaders over the course of 5 years. And really, the goal has always been to educate people with disabilities and family members um, on better services and supports, and also on how to be safe in their communities. And so we have developed 3 educational tools. One is our Healthy, Safe, and Connected Toolkit. The other is our Safe and Free series. And then today, what we're going to be talking about is our Let's Talk About Rights guides. So we're excited to have families and guardians joining us today to talk about that. So I just have to get something to stop here because my screen is, there we go. So just an overview of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk a little bit about why rights education is important to people with disabilities, why it's important to support the person in your lives to assert those or to use their rights. We're going to show you a little bit of an overview of our rights guides for families and guardians. And so we'll show that. And then we're going to have our presenters give us kind of their perspectives on their lives or the lives of the people of their family members, and why rights and making those choices is so important to them. And so we're lucky to have Cindy as a self-advocate, not only as the People First director, but also a self-advocate. And then Diana, who's a sister, and Nancy, who's a parent. So we're excited to have them with us today. All right. So why is rights education so important? I think what we have seen and what the research shows is that often people with disabilities have fewer, or their rights have been limited in some way. We also know that there is discrimination and often low expectations, and sometimes even laws that limit the rights of people with disabilities. People who understand and use their rights have better lives. They're able to make better choices. and make their own choices. We also know that people who understand their rights are less likely to be victims of abuse and neglect. So they're able to understand what's happening with them and to be able to say no. So our guide really provides information to help people learn about, understand, and advocate for their personal rights and freedoms. So it's very important for our project and BPDD to really be thinking about how we support the independence of people with disabilities. And as family members, I am a family member. I have an adult son who has a disability, and I know personally that it's really important to help him make his own decisions and to really empower him to be able to do that. So some of the things that we focus on at BPDD is supported decision making as an alternative to guardianship. And this often allows people to be able to make their own decisions and without giving up their rights and with the support and help that they need. And as family members and supporters, it's really our job to be really careful not to make decisions that go against what the person wants. So I know it can be very easy. I am a parent and I know that sometimes it would just be easy to make all the decisions. But that's not really what we would want for ourselves, and we really shouldn't want that for our family members either. And then dignity of risk, and I know Cindy's probably going to talk about this, is, you know, everyone has the right to make choices, even if maybe there is a negative consequence. And so whether you have a disability or not, we all make choices and make mistakes. And so it's just important to be thinking about that when you're thinking about supporting your family member, or if you're a guardian, the person that you're supporting. Hang on, my slide is not changing. All right. Now, is this going to work? Can you hear it?
I can't hear it.
Okay. Hang on. I got to stop. I forgot. Been a little while since I've done a presentation. So give me just a minute. Oh, why can't I see the little button? Here we go. All right, let's try that again.
Sal, you're not sharing your screen right now if you think you.
Oh, I'm not?
Mm-mm.
Oh, what happened? Okay, let's try that again. I apologize.
All right. I see your Zoom screen at the moment. There you go. Now it's presenter mode. Will you switch
Okay,
the
I'm going
display
to
setting?
reshare that. You ready?
It currently shows the display settings, like the flipped, the presenter screen. So will you just flip it before you start?
I will try. Oh my gosh. I apologize.
No worries.
This is why I should never be the sharer.
Okay, it's okay.
Welcome to the Self-Determination channel. This is the first video in our Know Your Rights series. The rights we will be talking about are human.
Why did it get so messed up? Okay, one more shot. Here. Okay. Okay, here we go. Let's give it another shot.
Welcome to the Self-Determination channel. This is the first video in our Know Your Rights series. The rights we will be talking about are human rights. Every person in the world has human rights. That includes children and adults.
This includes you. The law says that people with disabilities have the same rights as everyone else. This means you should be able to live a good life with respect and security.
You have the right to make choices about how you live your life, even if you get help making decisions or you have a guardian. You have the right to be heard and make choices. This is called self-determination.
Human rights are protected by laws. The human rights that we will talk about in this series are your rights to
Live where you want and live with people that you want.
Make your own choices about life.
Control your money.
Have privacy.
Choose the services you want.
Be free from people hurting you.
Go to school.
get a job, get medicine and help from doctors.
Decide your own schedule.
Own the things you want.
Say what you want and to express yourself.
Have the faith you want.
Vote. Talk to and be around the people you want.
Rest and do things you like to do.
Protection with the law and with your services. Should self-advocates make informed decisions? It is important that you know and understand your rights.
To help you, we have created videos. Each video talks about a right you have.
You will learn what you can do to make sure your rights are protected.
You'll see what people who support you should do to help you.
And you'll hear from our self-advocates about why each right is important to them.
The links to these videos are in the information section below.
Take time to watch the videos.
Share them with people who support you.
Understanding your rights is the first step in living a better life.
Thanks for watching the Self-Determination channel.
We need your support to keep the channel going. Give us a thumbs up if you like our videos.
Subscribe to our channel. It's free. If you click on the bell icon, you'll be notified when we post a new video.
I'm going to turn it over to Caitlin. She's going to talk a little bit about our guides.
Thank you. Give me 1 second. Doing a lot of. There we go. All right. So the Living Well project really wanted to tackle this issue of rights, but use content that was specific for the individual people who needed to be involved in protecting the rights and helping people with disabilities learn and access and exercise those rights. So we created 3 different versions of our Let's Talk About Rights guides: the provider version, the family guardian version, and the self-advocate version. They all talk about the same rights, but they use a little bit different language based on who the audience is that the guide is designed for. The self-advocate version, for example, is designed to be in plain language and easy read, bigger fonts, that kind of thing, so that it can be as accessible as possible for self-advocates. The family and guardian version talks a lot more about the support role that people play in helping others access their rights. But each guide is designed in a workbook format to help with thinking and planning. So there are prompting questions that allow whoever is using the workbook to jot down notes, think about past experiences, or ways that they can help in the future. Next slide. So the goal of the Family Guardian Guide, the guide that we're talking about today, is to increase the understanding about the rights of people with disabilities and to help families and guardians think about how they can support the person with their rights. So the information on one page is all about what the right is, how it can get exercised, the things that an individual can do to exercise that right, and then the things that a support person can do to help them exercise that right or help them learn about it. And then, like I said, there are prompting questions on the other page of the workbook that is tied to that right in order to help family and guardians think about how they can play that support role for the person who wants to be exercising their rights. Next slide. So this is an example of what that looks like. This is just one of the rights that's in the guide. This one is leisure and rest. So there's a little bit of an introduction where it talks about where the right comes from. In this case, we talk about the United States Declaration of Independence, where the history of this kind of human right exists. And then we talk about what leisure and rest looks like and how family and guardians can support somebody to do things like take time to rest, access community for leisure, setting a daily schedule that includes rest and leisure. And then it talks a little bit about what people with disabilities can do to exercise this right, and how to learn about it. It is connected to the Know Your Rights video that is specific to leisure and rest, where you hear from self-advocates on why this is important to them, real stories from real self-advocates on why it's important and how they've exercised that right in their own life. And then these are the planning questions on the other page. A lot of them are very similarly formed. So the question would be, what has the person shared with me about their preference for rest and leisure? And what more can I do to support the person to understand and exercise their rights related to leisure and rest?
Awesome. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Cindy. It's a great picture, Cindy, when I saw that yesterday. Take it away, Cindy. You ready to go?
Mm-hmm. So I was, this is a picture of me. I was in a state institution, born in 1957, with fetal alcoholic syndrome. You can move on. Oh, and I got out of the institution when I was 26. This is me and I'm a Special Olympic athlete. And so that's what saved my life. So I got this last weekend before last, I got a sportsmanship award, 2 of them. And then and another picture, I got first place at our sectionals. So, yeah. I moved out of the institution in 1984 to a group home in Milwaukee. I had a legal guardian, Jan Fitzgerald, to help me make a move. I had learned to do other things, set alarm clocks, get myself up and dress myself, and fix my own breakfast. Finding my voice, I like cookies, you see on there. I had no rights in the institution and I had to learn how to speak up for myself. I worked to get guardianship canceled to I could vote. My guardian supported my decision and we went to court and the judge asked me about the right from wrong. So there's a cookie thing. So I use that is if I ate 9 cookies, I would be sick. So yes, I know right from wrong. and I love cookies anyway, so yeah. And so now I can vote. This is me voting. I'm very happy. I need to be voting, and if I don't vote, I have nothing to complain about. So I also tell my members the same thing. So yeah. And how I make my own decisions. I basically make my own decision about what I want, who comes in my house, but I make the decisions. So what I'm going to do with my day. And it just asked me, understanding my individual support needs. Yes, I still need lots of support. I need support in things that I need support in, but self-directed, I have a self-directed iris. I have job coaching, helps me with scheduling and appointments, operation manager, and grant writing. So these are all the things I have to help me with my job. In my life, my choice, I have a sweet baby kitty, which is right under this table, Dory. She keeps me happy, safe, and she knows if I'm sad or whatever, but she's the sweetest baby in the world. You can move on if you want. So this is me in our office. My dream job was to be an advocate and giving back to the community. So this is me at my desk at our old office. We work out of my operations manager's house, which has been good. And this is me probably testifying on something I believe in. So yeah, I do a lot of testifying and speaking up for other people and myself. And this is my People First member. These are my members. We have a couple of new ones. Chad's new, but it's really a lot. We were at our this was up in Madison. We were getting ready to do what was it? We have we go to talk to our legislators. There's a name
Disability
for it.
Advocacy Day.
Yeah, Advocacy Day. Yeah, and so then we get ready and listen to other people talk to us about what's going to happen at the Capitol, and we have lunch and dinner and just have a good time with each. Good time. So. Our mission is to provide opportunities for people with disabilities in Wisconsin to speak up, be heard about healthcare, voting, employment, housing, and transportation issues. Indignantly risk falls, makes mistakes, get back up. So I think we are people with intellectual disabilities. We can take the risk, and we'll fall, and we'll make mistakes when we have to get back up. I've made a lot of mistakes, probably, but I got back up and things were all right. So we have to, people, I don't want somebody treating me like, if I'm doing something wrong, I need to be called on the carpet and explain to me this is not what I should be doing. No poor Cindy at all, or poor anybody with a disability. I know right from wrong. So if I'm doing something I shouldn't do, then I need to be talked to. Yep.
Cindy, I know you've talked before about the when you first started and losing some data on the computer, and just that we all make mistakes sometimes, right? And
I wasn't going to talk about that part of it.
I'm sorry. Okay, I thought you wanted to, so that's why.
Well, I thought about that because I don't know, it's kind of embarrassing. You know, I did lose all the data when I first started People First, but then they had these floppy things or whatever you put. It's a thing you put in the computer and you get it all back, but it's
That's a
embarrassing.
long time. Yep.
That was a long time ago.
time
I'm
ago.
hoping I never do that again. So I probably won't because we have updated computers, which is much better than the ones they had in the olden days. So,
Well,
I
and
just
Cindy,
always think of it as like such a good example of like we all have to learn how to do stuff on jobs and having that chance to try things and um
and
sometimes it
Cindy, as
goes
you can
well.
see, we all have to relearn every day because you know I couldn't get the video working.
mm-hmm.
Oh,
Understandable.
oh, there we go.
So we work together with other organizations. The BP board is our funder to help us keep our doors open and help us with a lot of things. And the right to vote, right to live independent, right to have a job and control of money. I have the control of my money, but I still need help with big bills and stuff like that. Like over $100, I still don't know what I can get back. So I need to make sure if I'm making a big purchase, I take somebody with me. Like I just made I had to get a new TV just this week. I waited for the one to die out. That's just how I do things. If it's not broken, don't fix it. Now I'm excited. I have a smart TV, gonna be able to get a lot of things on there, plus Disney Channel I wanted. So it probably won't see me a lot if I'm on my new TV. So, but I had to have help doing that. You know, I just can't get online and order it myself. It's kind of hard. So I had help, and I'm thankful that I did have help. So that was good.
Awesome. That sounds
Now
good.
I'm up with the times. The
Yeah,
TV
exactly.
the one I had was a Sony. I was grandfathered into that TV. I loved it. Didn't want to get rid of it. That's just me. So I said when it died, and I knew it was gonna die last week when things, oh, okay, but I do I have a backup. I have a TV in my room, but it'll be after we get back from traveling, I'm gonna hook up the new one with some help.
That's
So we all
awesome.
need help on things. So, and then this is Don about community living. I love living in my community, not in an institution where I have no choices. And Don is a really good person, good friend, and our board, one of our members of our board. So very nice. Yeah. Okay, you can move it on if you want, Sally.
My
think-
slide is stuck. Did
Okay.
it change?
No,
No.
but I think I have it. Oh, I guess yeah. Let me
There we
see.
go. I think
Oh, there we go. Now it's Deanna. Thanks for
Yeah.
listening.
Thanks, Cindy. I'm
You're
gonna turn it over.
welcome.
I'm gonna turn it over to Diana.
Okay. Hi, everybody. On my slide, I'm talking about the sibling perspective of having, a sibling with a disability and what are things that we can do to support them. But I also wear a different hat where I'm the program director at ALAS. So we help families. Majority of our families are Spanish speaking. So in the Hispanic culture, navigating how to advocate for their rights of themselves or for their children or for their family members, however they come to us. So one of the things that we can do to support the individual with a disability is to really learn that different relationships between family and friends provide different expectations for the child with a disability or the person with a disability. I think that this is important. I talk a lot about my experience as a sibling, but I know that there are things that my brother is capable of doing for himself, that he doesn't do the same in front of my parents. And I know my mom's on here, so I don't want her to get mad at me, but just to call her out just a little bit. But there's some things that I know that he can do for himself that he will act differently around the people who are around him. So I think it's important to just keep an open mind and be observant of those relationships and see how that affects that certain person. Um, I think it's also important to teach and show that we are all capable of achieving our goals that we set for ourselves. I think it's important to instill that onto the person with the disability, but I think it's even more powerful when they see that for you as well. If you're setting your own goals and examples and you're achieving them, that is so much inspiration for them to do the same for themselves. Um, Something that I think is more important as well is that as a human, it's you're more inclined to share what you need or want when you know that the other person that you're talking to is actively listening and isn't judging you. You tend to open yourself up more, and I think that's super important. I know that there's times where my brother brings something up that in front of me, I might be like, "Ooh, let me think about that for a second," but I don't ever like judge him or you know, really respond back until I know what I'm going to say isn't going to like hurt him or anything like that. But even if it does, I think it's important to teach those boundaries and healthy relationships between one another. Um, I think it's also very important to ask for help. And I know personally that's something that we struggle with my brother is he will not ask for help. He will struggle in silence. And um, it bothers me in the sense that I know he's struggling, but he will not go out of his way to say, "I need help." So we've been working on him with that, and I've noticed that a lot with the kids that we work with at ILS, like if we're doing a project with them or an activity and they're struggling, um, we have a I would say a 50-50. There's kids that do know how to say, look for an adult and say, I need help. And there's kids who will just sit there in silence and they'll just not do anything. So I think it's very important to teach that, to ask for help. And that's for everybody, really. Um, I also think that having tough conversations between caregivers and family supporters should happen in front of the self-advocate within reason, of course. One of the examples that I had for that was last year, my brother was having a lot of issues with like a lot of medical issues with a G-tube that he was having. And we were having a lot of these conversations with the physicians and the nurses, and it got to a point where we're in this boardroom with all these people and my brother's not in there. So I was, it dawned on me when I said he needs to be here and he needs to be part of this conversation because we're talking about his future here. And it wasn't until we started, involving him in the situation and saying, okay, what do you want? That we got to a good place and now everything's good. But even then, it's it's hard as a family member to see professionals or the people that you look up to for these answers downplay their intelligence or their knowledge, because there's a lot of times where we came across people that said, well, he doesn't know, like he doesn't know the severity of this. Well, yes, he does. It's happening to his body, you know. So I think in that sense, we were really struggling, but it all ended up working out well as soon as we started involving my brother in the conversation and giving him the spotlight because it's happening to him, of course. I think something else that affects the way we can advocate for our rights is navigating cultural differences. I know that a lot of the families that I work with, um, they have fear speaking up with the systems. One, it's not in their language, so that's already a problem to begin with. And a second of all, if you're not making a fuss, if you're not making a problem, you're labeled as less problematic, so you'll be able to receive more. Is what the thought process is, and that's just wrong. I mean, you should receive the help or the support that you need, regardless of your status or what color you are or anything like that. So, I think that's one of the things that we should work towards is making this culturally, um, advocating for our rights culturally acceptable for all. Um, some other examples of daily life that I wanted to include was, again, that different relationships between family and friends provide different expectations. I used to live in the home with my brother. I no longer live in that home. I bought my own house. So it's funny to see the relationship between like meal times at my parents' house. He knows how to navigate and do his own meal, set it up and everything. But there's times where like I'll go over to visit and he's saying like, oh, I need a spoon or I need ice or I need, something like that. And I just look at him and he knows when I give him that look that, okay, you can do that for yourself, and he kind of chuckles and kind of gives that like, oh man, he caught me. But he knows that when he comes to my house, he's totally free. Like he knows he can go upstairs in my spare bedroom, make that his own for the time being, and he knows where everything is, knows how to ask for help when he's here. So I think it's just really important to notice that dynamic and how different it is for everybody. I also did want to add with it's not on here, but with him turning 18, there was a huge divide in our family because half of our family decided he needs guardianship, and I was on the other end saying, no, he doesn't. He is very capable of making his decisions when informed, and we should push towards supportive decision making. And when I tell you it was like a huge ordeal for a while, it was just like either we talk about it and we blow up, or we don't talk about it at all. So I think we ended up going with supported decision making because I really kept fighting the case that, okay, he might not be able to make his own decisions right this second on his own, but neither did I when I turned 18. I would, hey mom, am I doing the right thing? Like, is this right? So we really did push towards, teaching him how to make his own decisions and how to get to that point. And culturally, that was very difficult because in our culture, if you make up, you're a failure. I mean, if you make a mistake, you're a failure. So it's hard to let your kids fall and experience that, but it's so much more powerful when they can fall and get back up and keep going. And that's what I kept like instilling on my parents. He will be fine. He will make mistakes, but we make them all. So I included a picture here of him and this was when he turned 18 and we went voting for the first time.
Thanks for bringing that up because I did see somebody post, and Caitlin, I think, answered the person's question in the questions, but somebody was asking, they're very close to guardianship at the moment, but didn't have those resources. So we'll be sure to post the supported decision making stuff from our website in the chat for people. Because it is harder to reverse guardianship than to choose at a later date to do it. So I thanks for bringing that up, Diana.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that as well. That's one of those things that a lot of the times when our families come to us and they say, I don't know what to do, what to pick, should we go to guardianship or should we go to supported decision making? We always make that statement that, okay, if you choose supported decision making, try it out. It's way better to try that out than to go the route of guardianship and later on find out this wasn't the right fit. Let's reverse it. It's so hard to reverse it. And um to get guardianship, they have to declare your child or the individual as incompetent. To reverse that is so hard because now you have to prove that they're not incompetent and that they can choose for themselves and make the right decisions. And it's just an ordeal that honestly, if you um, don't need it, I wouldn't go through there. I know there are specific cases where guardianship is definitely needed, and that's on a individual basis. But for sure, there are many resources for how to choose between supported decision making and guardianship. And so here now I'm talking a little bit about our organization at ALAS, and our mission is to foster disability inclusive communities where everybody has the same opportunities to participate in all aspects of life to the best of our abilities and desires, especially people, individuals of color with multiple marginalized identities through education, advocacy, and support services. This navigating guardianship and the alternatives to guardianship is something that we also help families with. So if anybody out there is struggling, you can definitely give us a call and we can try to help you pick the right decision for you and your family, or help educate you on all aspects of that. But some of our services include advocacy, information, and referrals. If there's something that you need and you come to us and we cannot necessarily help you with that, we can definitely refer you to a lot other organizations that can help. We do workshops on self-determination, self-advocacy, and leadership. We do family training workshops, and we also host support groups for parents and siblings. I think it's important to host these support groups. Again, being a sibling, I struggled a lot growing up with not really having an identity other than being the sibling of someone with a disability. So that's super important for us to hold safe spaces for siblings and the parents. And overall, our services are for the whole family. We also offer summer camps and activities, interpretation and translation services for our families, and we host several educational forums throughout the year in the home, community, and school. I just realized I did not post our contact us information on here, but I can send it in a chat to everybody.
Yeah, you can put it in the chat if you want to put the website in the chat. That would be great.
Thank
Your
you.
contact information. Awesome. All right. Thanks. I'm going to turn it over to Nancy.
Hi. So this is my son Ben. He just recently turned 17, so this is obviously quite a while ago, these photos. And I did check with him to make sure he'd be okay with me sharing his story, and he said it was fine if it would help other people. So Ben was diagnosed on the autism spectrum when he was around 2.5 years old, and then we just entered all the systems, right? We had him in birth at 3, and then he got an IEP when he turned 3, and he started early childhood, and has had an IEP all the way throughout his school experience. We got him going on the Children's Long-Term Support Waiver and Medicaid, and we pursued different kinds of outpatient therapies, speech and OT, and then also ABA therapy, or applied behavioral analysis, for kids with autism, where they came to our home and provided support to them there. So to be honest, when I look back at this time in life, it was like, I think a lot of what we were pursuing came out of a place of fear and worry about the future and what it might look like, and worry about, would he have friends, where would he be able to communicate effectively, what his needs and preferences were, what would life look like for him. So we pursued all these different avenues to try to make sure that he would get what he needed. You could go to the next slide. And so I think at that time, we really worried about, looked to experts for advice on things, and didn't necessarily always trust our instincts. I guess I didn't want us to miss out on something, like, oh my goodness, what if I miss out on something that's going to make a big difference? And you'd always hear about, like, oh, this peak times of development where you don't want to miss out on getting the right service or therapy. I'd count the minutes on his IEP to make sure that he was included enough, and all those kinds of things. And while they were important, I'm his parent, there's always all those hours we spent with therapy. We weren't spending going to the beach, or he wasn't going to meet other kids maybe in a t-ball game or something like that. Like, there's always going to be trade-offs. And while I appreciated the ABA therapy, and I think at that point in time it helped him in a lot of ways, I look back now, and some of the things that they had us doing just weren't a really good fit for our family. So I had to learn to speak up and say if there was something that just wasn't a fit. There was a lot with ABA is trying to just shape that behavior. There's a lot of control in there. And so, for instance, they had this one behavioral support plan in place to try to get him to comply so they could gain therapeutic control, so we could all go out in the community together more. and they would give us like seriously like a bucket with sponges in it. And I don't remember the details of all of it, but I remember that if he didn't comply or do what he was supposed to, we were supposed to drop this bucket and have him slowly pick up the sponges. And then if we went in the community, they had us bring a little sucrets box with little tiny sponges and do that. And it was when I was at a McDonald's and my brother was in from California and he saw me dumping the sucrets sponges on the floor and gave me this look like, what in the world are you doing? And I thought to myself, what am I doing? And, you know, and I had to kind of speak up and say to the provider, you know, this isn't going to work. And like, because the parents are unable to comply with this behavioral plan, we just can't do it. It's not a fit for us. It's not a fit for Ben. So I think, you know, at that point in his life, it was a lot of like really trying to be brave myself and speak up when I needed to about, you know, what was a fit and what wasn't. And then also to try to empower him more about, you know, what he wanted to do. The picture here with him sitting at the lunch table, his teacher had sent it to me. That was the first time he ever went and sat in the lunch table. We didn't force it because he was overstimulated there. It was too loud, too much. He couldn't eat. It was overwhelming. And but one day he came up to her to let her know that he wanted to go sit with his friends at lunch. And so he chose to do that. And then she offered him the headphones and he took them. So I think that, you know, we had those moments of early moments of trying to encourage him to make choices and respect his rights and what he would want. For our family, big thing that happened that helped a lot was when I went through partners in policymaking training, and actually I was in Sally's class and Cindy's class, and that was through the Board for People with Developmental Disabilities, and it's for family members of people with disabilities and then adults with disabilities. And I remember a speaker there talking about like you know, when her kid was younger, like that whole like piling on therapies and trying to make sure that, you know, you didn't miss something. And you know, and I thought to myself, oh my goodness, I'm a therapy mom. That's what I'm doing, you know. And I look back now and sometimes I think, well, certain things that we pursued were great. I also think I kind of wish I would have played more, right? I do wish that. But anyway, you can go to the next slide. You know, a big thing that I would say though that happened over time was I moved from a place of like what I would call like fear-based parenting, like to more of like trying to be in a place of hope. And I think that, you know, certainly partners in policymaking helped me with that. Meeting adults with disabilities who had full and complete lives, that helped me move to a better space as well. A big thing that we've done for Ben is always to really try to promote friendship. So this is the first time he ever had a friend over. His friend Natek, they're still friends, and then Natek had written in chalk that Ben was his friend. So you can go to the next slide. Another thing that we really tried to do was, you know, build community. So this was taken actually at a run walk. So I got pretty involved with like the PTO at our school, and anyway, we ended up working to build an accessible playground there. And so getting to know some other parents was hugely helpful. And then also just hanging out on the playground after school was where we met a lot of other parents of kids who were what we call neurodivergent, and we all kind of just got to know each other and found each other, I guess, and have supported each other. And now we get together and we'll sometimes have what we call like the worst parents ever breakfasts or dinners, where we just talk about like, gosh, I feel like I'm not doing this right, or I wish I would have handled that differently. And it's just been a huge comfort to our family. You can go to the next slide. I would say if I, you know, could look at things like, you know, give maybe advice to other families, I would just say, you know, find the providers who share your values. I will say this, our ABA provider, I mean, they overall, like they did make it more of a play-based thing. So there were some really good things with that. But over the years, I've certainly been in situations where I haven't felt like they shared my values. And sometimes you can tell kind of pretty quickly. I too have, my son's 17. So all of a sudden, there's all this transition stuff that's happening, and we're starting to have conversations. His neurologist that he had his whole life retired, and we had to go to a different provider and meet with her for the first time. And within the first 5 minutes of meeting him, he hadn't actually even said anything other than hello. She brought up whether we were there to pursue guardianship. And I said, no, we're not. And in my head, I'm thinking, you don't just meet somebody and immediately ask them about taking away, are you here to take away? Really, it's just asking, are you here to declare your child incompetent and take away his rights, start that process? And it was just this very awkward moment. And I brought up to her about supported decision making. Had she ever heard of that? I mean, I didn't want to push it too hard at the moment because I didn't want to make Ben uncomfortable. But I think that it definitely felt like, she had a checklist she was going through and had her back to us on the computer, which I know Cindy and I talk about how we don't like that when we're seeing a doctor. But I think, I'm noticing now there's other forms and things too in every aspect. It's not just medical, it's the vocational questions. It's about, oh, will he need a guardian? It's, so as you go through, like with DVR, it's, you're seeing in all aspects of his life. Going on the children's functional screen, when they did the rescreen, they're talking about the future and guardianship. And they're not asking me, what kinds of support do you think your son will need to make decisions? Hey, Ben, what kind of help do you need to make decisions? They go straight to the guardianship. And there's a lot of things you can put in place without having to go to that. And again, I agree, that certain people are in need of that level of support, and it's good that that's available. But it's also good to be able to explore some of those other things first and see if you can put together a plan that works for your loved one. As I said, those other friendships with the people you can be real with, and that's made a difference. I think as parents, sometimes we accidentally do a lot of comparing to other people. And so finding people who get you and you get, that's important. And I would say finding the groups that you can join, to advocate for the things that your child needs, like, so getting involved with partners in policy making, signing up on the listservs. And if BPDD or Survival Coalition says, hey, you might be worried, this might affect you, like learning about issues and things. But probably the biggest thing is just trying to make sure that, you're making joy a goal. I think that sometimes when we're in our efforts to make sure that our kid has everything, we can lose sight of some of that. And really, that's so important for a good quality of life. And that's really what we want. You can go to the next slide, please. One of the things that's been really helpful for me is to work for Cindy at People First and to get to know a lot of the other self-advocate leaders. And I would say that some of the things I've learned from them is, like, Cindy will often say, just ask me, ask the questions, make sure I give time for people to answer, and really pay attention and be present with them. And then believe them. They're the experts on they've had the lived experiences, Ben hadn't made his volleyball team at Nicolay for he made it freshman, sophomore year, but then it was like pretty competitive for the varsity. He didn't make it and he was so upset. Cindy's like, give Special Olympics a try, and so we did, and it was it's been a really positive thing for him, and he wanted to try it. And I would say that for him, being with other adults with disabilities, many of the people on his team, they have their nice jobs in the community, they have their own apartments, some of them are married, some have families. That has been huge for him to be able to see possibilities. You can go to the next slide, please. The picture of Ben with the tie, he actually had, I was on a Zoom meeting one day and he gave himself a mohawk just by like looking it up on Google, and he actually did a pretty decent job. So there's that. And we all laughed about like self-determination and like in the moment, right? But he really wanted to go to homecoming, and he didn't really have people to go with. And I couldn't have imagined doing that when I went to high school. So like I was like, I couldn't imagine this for him. And it's like, oh my goodness, what if he doesn't have fun? What if nobody wants to hang out with him? He had a ball, and he danced. He did meet a friend there, but they really didn't hang out, and he had a great time. And so it's like letting go of some of those fears and maybe our own experiences, and letting our kids try things is really how they gain that confidence. And that's part of that whole right for, rest and leisure and things. And then, we made him a shirt. His cousins got, and his sister got they got Barbie shirts for Christmas, and we made him one that says I am enough instead of enough. But he's definitely gained some confidence over time. I recently, like, there's just a lot that, I'm having to like trust him more and let go of certain things. I was with Cindy one day and we were going to a meeting and he calls me on my cell and is like, can I go for a run? And I'm like, he's like, I want to go run at the park. I'm like, well, could you just run around the circle? Like, we live in the circle. You could just do laps. And he's like, no, I want to go to the park. And then he's like, we have Life 360 on the phone. You can monitor me. You can check and see where I am. I'm like, and Cindy's looking at me like, let the kid go for a run. And I think, a year ago he had a lot of mental health problems and troubles. And so it's like, but he's in a much better space now. And so being able to recognize that he is in a much better space and say, yeah, you can go for that run. And it was fine. And I thanked him for asking, I guess, as I look at all this, I hear Cindy talk about this and also having a conversation with Ben the other day. I talked to him about his future and he's thinking about maybe wanting to look into college, and he is going to do the Youth Leadership Forum training through BPDD this summer. And he's excited about that. And we were just talking about the things he needs in his life to feel good and what works for him. And he mentioned like meditation, sports, good sleep, good nutrition, playing his bass. These are all things that are important to him. And then I just said to him, so what about from us? What do you need from us as parents? And in my head, I'm going through a list of like, he's going to need some help with certain daily living skills and, going through the checklist. You can go to the next slide. But all he said was love. What do you need from us? Love. And I hear Cindy talk about that too. And I guess that, as we look at people's rights, I think always remembering that's at the core. We want people to feel loved and connected and have joy and have meaningful relationships. I've heard Cindy advocate a lot for the idea that people, like, if they need mental health services, they shouldn't have to travel tons of hours to get them. Families shouldn't have to make terrible decisions about, accessing care or being several hours away and not having access to their loved ones. That we should be advocating for things where people can have their services in their home and own communities. And because she's like, and she's right, because she's like that, because people need love. That's what they need. And Ben knows that too. And I think that we all just need to be reminded of that. And I think that if as we're helping to have people have rights in the community, if we're coming from a place of love, if we're coming from a place of hope and how we're supporting them, then I think that a lot of those rights just start to fall into place and it doesn't seem as overwhelming as it can. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. I'm going to wrap us up and answer some of these questions. We just wanted to provide some information about the agencies that we have been working with that we're doing the rights education. So we'll be sure to include the PowerPoint after when we follow up after this. I saw some questions in the chat. I think Caitlin was answering some. So there were quite a few questions about supported decision making and guardianship and kind of all of these conversations like Nancy was talking about with medical professionals or school people. I think it's always just, you need to keep asking those questions, and guardianship should not necessarily be just another check of the box. And there are a lot of people out there who don't know about supported decision making. And as Diana said too, like, maybe choose the less restrictive options to start and then move into others. There's nothing that really changes from 17 years, 364 days to 18. Nothing's really changing as for the person in your family. There was a comment about, that this works for individuals who are residing with families, but it's very different when you're living in a group home or a more of that congregate setting. And so I think we did do a training last month for professionals. And so we're really trying to be sure that agencies and service providers understand about helping people assert their rights. But again, if you are in a living situation like that, there are opportunities to, if you think that there's a rights restriction, you can report that to the Division of Quality Assurance. You can report it to the Division of Medicaid. Your rights shouldn't, there are very few rights that should be limited. And, we are working hard as an agency to be sure that people are getting those choices and that people are being included within their communities. So the question was, how do we work on those rights? And I guess that's what we're trying to do, is to continue to educate and making sure that our Department of Health Services is holding group homes and other kind of group settings accountable for being sure that people are able to assert their rights. We'll send out everything. So we'll send the recording. With that, we'll send the PowerPoint. We have our contact information in the PowerPoint. So this is the access to all of the rights guides. And then we have all of our self-determination channel videos. So we did 17 videos of the rights that lots of people have been viewing and using. And then this is mine and Caitlin's contact information. If you can put your question in the chat, Nancy, Nancy Helmutimus, I don't think I can unmute you at the moment. Yes, I think that we often hear that providers are not letting people make those personal choices. And so this has been a very important part of our grant, is to make sure that not only are people educated, but that we're being sure that more and more providers are educated to understand you really aren't allowed to limit people's choices, and working very hard to be sure that that is what's happening. All right. Oh, yes. Nancy reminded me that disability rights is also a place that can help you. If you're seeing rights violations, you can contact disability rights. They have kind of a couple different things. If you're receiving family care or IRIS and you feel like things aren't going, you can contact what's called the Ombudsman program. If it's a very serious rights restriction, bordering on abuse and neglect, you can also contact them, and they, the protection and advocacy folks will work with you on that. I'm just checking to see. Caitlin's been posting a lot of stuff in the chat. So before you get off, you might want to grab some of that. But again, we can put all of that in our follow-up emails too, on the supported decision making, everybody's contact information, the link to the recording, links to disability rights. So I think that's it. We really thank you for being with us today. And we will be doing a final webinar in June. And that is really going to be for self-advocates. So we'll be having several of our Living Well self-advocates joining, talking about how they assert their rights. And I don't have that date because I can't remember, but Caitlin may have put it in the chat.
I did. It's June 13th. It's a Thursday from 12 to 1.
All right. Great. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. A survey will pop up as you get off, and we would appreciate it if you would fill that out.